project. And my project was on fire. And so you can go back and look, Santana Row, 2000.
Haven't, and I so connect with everything you were saying. But I'm curious, when you made that choice to go from engineering to teaching, were there real specific things that just said, you can't deny this any longer, you have to do this, or like just go stay in your room the rest of your life? Like, what got you to like make that jump?
So yeah, okay. So two things happened. Well, actually, it was lots of things happened, and I don't know the answer. But here's what I do know. I took a vacation because when I was in engineering, I had vacations. I went to Mexico, and while I was in Mexico with one of my young men I was mentoring, but like a really good friend, the building I was working on in San Jose, Santana Row, the biggest building on Santana Row's property, this 1 acre building floor plan, it caught on fire. That was my project. So I'm in Mexico, I'm watching the news, and they're like, San Jose, California. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm looking at this building on this TV in Spanish. I'm still learning Spanish at the time. My Spanish is really horrible, but I know what San Jose says in San Jose, California. I'm like, that's my project. And my project was on fire. And so you can go back and look, Santana Row, 2002 or 2001, that building caught on fire. And I don't know that there was a sign, but it was definitely, it changed my life. So I came back to from vacation, and it was a mess, trying to rebuild a building that was already half built. And anyway, I think that sometimes the signs were kind of confusing. Now, I didn't have to leave the job because the building burned. That's probably more job security because now we got more work to do. It just made it worse in my heart to be like, this is what you want to spend your energy on. So in addition to all the things that were already calling me to go make the move, it's something was just in me, just said it's time. And yeah, I wish that I don't have an answer, but I know that I'm clear as I look back that there's some little moments that were like, oh, maybe that was it. But I leave it in that box of being unknown but I it's always easy to put the pieces together looking back. That's what they say. Yeah. Man, thank you for that question.
You also saw that sign when you asked that, when you were working with that one kid, right? For his math. There was an energetic something, right? That was beyond your mind.
That's right.
Playing music or whatever the visuals you saw. Those things were like, where does this come from? This is not my usual thought process.
I hesitated to ask my question, even though I really wanted to, because I really would love to hear the bean story, because I deal with somebody who's always all their stuff.
Also, Ashanti, I don't know, it's noon on the West Coast. Do you have something you need to run to? Or
no, I got a minute. I would love to tell that story. I know people are, so if you have to leave, I understand. So the bean story was, I was in college, and I was trying to, I was always learning how to cook. So I was in my own apartment, and my grandmother, I called her, she lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. She was like, baby, it's gonna take like 4 hours to make those beans you asked me for the recipe for. And I'm like, 4 hours? I ain't got 4 hours to make no beans. And she was like, that's the only way you can cook them. And I was like, come on now. And so I started asking other people, how can you cook beans faster? Because I was making them for this party we were having. And then somebody told me, if you get a pressure cooker, you can cook them in an hour. I'm like, give me a pressure cooker. So I got a pressure cooker, and I probably should have read the instructions better, but I didn't know. So make the beans, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this sound in the kitchen, like air popping through this little hole, and a pressure cooker builds up pressure in this pot, and the pressure is building and building and building. And all of a sudden I realized something. Okay, did I mess up something? Why is there, steam pushing out this hole in the top of this pot? Because I've never used a pressure cooker. I'm just thinking I can cook beans in an hour. But when that starts happening, I'm getting nervous. So the pressure is releasing because it needs to release in order to keep from having an explosion. Because I think something's wrong, I don't know the pressure, because and when I cook stuff on the stove, you don't have a stream of pressure pushing out. So I'm thinking that something is wrong. So what I do is I turn the fire off. I'm a little freaking out, and I try and get the top off. but the top protects you from yourself because there's a little fail safe on there, the little latch. I don't know. And I'm like pulling. I'm like, something got to be wrong. And literally, say 7 minutes later, it was a long time me trying to pull. I was like, I closed it. Why won't it open? And literally, when I'm pulling hard, like on the top and the bottom of this pot. Literally, when I finally get enough the pressure that goes down and my strength matches, I pull it. The top blows off of the pot. Black bean juice flies all over the kitchen, all over my. I thought I blew up the house. I literally just screamed, ran out of the kitchen, ran to the bathroom because my face was burning, and literally when I made it back to the kitchen, there was black bean juice all over the ceiling. The pot had the top had shot all the way across, put a hole in the wall. Now I was living in a little rental from behind this family. The lady in the house, she thought that something had blew up, so she was knocking on my door, and I said, I'm busy, I can't answer it. I didn't want her to see the ceiling in her house. And literally, I was saying to people, like, that experience was one of those moments of realizing that if we don't like let the steam out in healthy ways, stuff in our life is going to come out in unhealthy ways. Like some of the mess I could clean up really quick in that house. Some of the mess I had to still clean up when I moved out a year later because there was bean juice that had gotten places I hadn't even seen yet. And what I use that analogy of is this idea that the pressure sometimes builds up, and we got to have a healthy way and a safe way of letting the steam out so we don't make a mess.